heard three accounts in the Sunday Gospel about Jesus on a boat. Maybe some of you had a chance to see on a boat. It's probably very pleasant. But in the previous two accounts, we heard about Jesus calming a storm, the apostles being afraid. Then the next time, the apostles not being afraid anymore of the storm, but being afraid of Jesus walking on the waters. And if we recall, Peter thought he had enough faith to go and walk out on the water with Jesus. He didn't, and so he started to drown. Today, we hear again about Jesus and a boat, Peter and the disciples, but this time, seems we have a story with a happy ending. Jesus goes out with the disciples, and he tells them what to do. They obey his word, and they catch a lot of fish. We know about other accounts in the scriptures where people didn't follow God's command and something bad happened. For example, in the book of Genesis, in the very beginning of the history of salvation, Adam and Eve are told, do not eat from this tree, and then they do, and then here we are, not in paradise anymore, although it's very nice today with the fall leaves and everything. We have many other accounts of people not listening to God and doing something else. Today, though, we have a good example of the disciples saying, Jesus, we already tried that, but since you say to do it, we'll do it again. We'll try again. And they received such an abundance of fish that they start to sink. If not for St. Peter's comment after that, I could end the sermon here right now. But what does Peter say? He says, Lord, get away from me. I am a sinful man. What's going on here? On the one hand, we can say that Peter is humble. He recognizes his sinfulness, and he realizes that God is all-powerful, holy, and he's not God. He needs to keep a distance. But at the same time, it shows a kind of woundedness in Peter, because he doesn't just acknowledge his sinfulness, but he actually says, God, get away from me. The problem of us humans very often is that we don't pick the best. It's not that we pick the worst, we pick second best. This is what a recently canonized Saint Sophrony of Essex, a modern-day monk who lived, he died only several decades ago. He lived in England up until the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And he said this, that the fault of humanity is picking second best. We don't pick the best. We don't aim for the top. We don't want what is truly good. We settle for second best. And this is the example here with the Apostle Peter. He is standing there. In the Gospel it says he kneels down, he bows down to the knees of Christ, and he says, Jesus, get away from me. Hard to believe. Our whole life, the purpose of our whole life is to be as close to God and as close to Jesus as possible. So the example from the Gospel today shows us that it's very important to follow God's word, and God will reward us abundantly for following his commandments. But at the same time, we also need to, in humility, go into the deep. And this is what Christ actually tells the apostles at the beginning. Take the boat and go into the deep. In Latin, the phrase is "duc in altu," which is a motto sometimes for somebody's high school, I've heard. It basically means don't settle for second best. Go to the depths, go to the heights, go into the profundity, go to the extremes to get the best. What does this mean for us? In our Christian life, it means going to the depths of our soul, and as we heard in the epistle today, to use all these means that God gave us to get closer to him, whether it's through prayer, fasting, or almsgiving. Through prayer, we can unite ourselves closer to God, to sit, for example, just try sitting for 15 minutes in silence and try to listen to the voice of God that is speaking to you. Put aside all care God, allow God to go into the depths of our hearts, to heal the wounds that sometimes prevent us from acknowledging God's presence and allowing us to rejoice in being in the presence of God. These wounds that sometimes make us want to say, God, get away from me. We also have the means of fasting. Fasting helps us to be thankful for God and to realize that we're not in charge, that we have a stomach that growls and can tell us that I can't do anymore unless I eat another, whatever, cheeseburger, hamburger, I need something else. I'm powerless without this, and I understand that God is all powerful, and I'm thankful to God for all the gifts He has given. And with almsgiving as well, we can go and into the depths of the world where people are also very wounded and forgotten. In fact, St. Cyril of Alexandria says that the meaning of go into the deep, because Christ also says, go into the deep and you will no longer catch fish, you will be fishers of men, means to go out into the world and preach the gospel. And as some recent fathers have said, preach the gospel and use words if necessary. Do acts of kindness, acts of mercy. Feed the hungry. Give drink to the thirsty. Clothe the naked. And in this way, we see the woundedness of our brothers and sisters, and we can go and help them as well to understand that they are loved, they are cared for by God and by their neighbors. So, brothers and sisters, today is the time, today salvation is at hand, today is the appointed time to do precisely this, to go into the deep, to not be afraid of the presence of God near us, and to allow God to enter into the depths of our heart, to heal that woundedness, to remain in humility in the presence of God, to go out into the world to love God and our neighbor.